Welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And in my quest to bring you guys the best in Devils historic content, stories, and interviews with the legends of yesteryear, I have a special guest for you today. My guest today has played in 458 games spanning a 10-year career, a Stanley Cup champion with the 1995 New Jersey Devils, and a whopping 1,951 penalty minutes, which is good for 59th all-time. 1/3 of the crash line, one of my childhood favorites, number 8, Mike Peluso. And Mike, before you start all the stories, I just want the fans to know I have talked to Mike for years. We've texted, we've talked on the phone. He's sent me voice memos of hilarious things, and I have been begging Mike to come on, guys, for 2 calendar years now. For 2 calendar years, for whatever reason, Mike was giving me the runaround a little bit. He said, I'm going to come on. And I think our great conversation with Randy McKay the other day gave him a little kick in the tush. And here he is, live and in the flesh, Mike Peluso. Mike, how you doing, man? I really appreciate this. Long overdue. How are you?
Good. Actually, it's 5:20.
What's 5:20?
Games played.
5:20? Oh, you got the playoffs?
Yeah, because they usually take the idiot out of the lineup. You got to give him a little bit of credit.
I apologize. I meant to say
I'm
regular
kidding.
season.
I won't fucking twist you up.
With another 62 in the playoffs, 20 with the Hawks, or 37 with the Devils, and 5 with the Blues. Let's just kind of start at the beginning, Mike. Tell me a little bit about when you were younger, how you got into hockey, and kind of your upbringing, way before you got to the NHL.
Well, I grew up in Pingill up in northern Minnesota. And, the Iron Range is hockey, Minnesota hockey up there in the Iron Range. I had older brothers and kind of tried to tag along with them. And I was a fat kid growing up. I got beat up quite a bit. And they used to call me Pillsbury. And then I think God had something to do with it. I grew a 6'4", and that's how I kind of got started. But Iron Range, northern Minnesota, state of hockey, and it's just environmental. So I got started there and then just played with my older brothers, Well,
when did you start taking it more seriously? Was it like high school age, or when did you start?
It was just
think, like, this
it was just all in fun. High school hockey's the biggest, and 3-sport athlete. Well, I went and played junior hockey in Stratford, and what happened was Gary Galley and Dave Ellett went pro when Bowling Green was playing Duluth for national championship, and our coach Bob Janander up in Greenway. Bob Janander is so reputable, probably in the top 5 greatest high school hockey coach of all time. They called Bob and they needed a defenseman. Or, can he play for Bowling Green? He said, no, he's not ready for Bowling Green. Will he come to Stratford, Ontario, Junior B? So he went to Stratford and it kind of opened up there. A lot of great players. College was the way to go. And then Jimmy Hughes played on that team. Nelson Emerson, some legends, and then out of nowhere, University of Alaska came in. University of Alaska was supposed to be in BC, British Columbia, and Manitoba, and the guy ended up on the wrong flight. He ends up in Stratford watching Junior B, and he says, will I go to University of Alaska? And I said, yeah, I'll go to the University of Alaska, and my GPA wasn't the best, I mean, it opened up some doors because I was kind of, Bob Janander said tier 2 in Alberta and that. So I went, and the guy just took the wrong plane up in Stratford, Ontario, and took me out to eat. He said, yeah, I'll give you a scholarship. I went in on academic probation. I had to get a 2.0. They're going to kick me out of there. I went 2.4, 2.6, 2.7, got off academic probation. That's a good goals against average, but it's not going to get me anywhere, right? So that's how it all started. And, mining, northern Minnesota and mining. And so it kind of took off from there. And so that's how it all started up there in northern Minnesota,
So you broke into the league in 1991 with the Blackhawks. What do you remember about the very beginnings of your career, breaking in with the Blackhawks, kind of how it happened and what you remember about that the most?
Well, what happened was I came out of college at the University of Alaska, and you got to understand something. There was no scouting back then. So I was where my parents could actually see me play my senior year was Western Michigan. And then I'll never forget it because the Devils were there, Lou Lamoriello, and then I think it was Burke. He comes up to me in front of my parents. He says, "You play like that, you could make the American Hockey League. You can play in the East Coast League." And I was a long shot anyway, right? And after my season ended as a captain in Alaska, my dad asked Mike, "You can play at the next level." So I called the Devils for a tryout. They said no. The North Stars said no, and then Chicago said yeah. And I went there, and I played all exhibition games. They moved me to left wing, and kind of all started there. And I always finished my checks. They moved me to left wing because they started going around me on defense, but it looked like they wanted to find a spot for me. And as a fat kid growing up and being bullied, I was just going to step in and fight for anyone and myself, protect myself. And that's kind of how it started. And then Mike Keane calls me in his office. He said, "Who the hell are you?" I said, "I'm Mike Peluso." He said, "Well, I know that. You played eight exhibition games." He said, "What's your dad do?" I said, "He's a miner up in northern Minnesota." He says, "Do you have any idea how close you're making the Blackhawks?" And I tried. I said, "No." He said, "Do you have an agent?" I said, "Yeah, I can get with my brother Frank. He could try that." And then I signed a contract with Chicago, making 27.5 in the minor leagues with Indianapolis. And that's kind of how it all started, And then we had a great team in Indianapolis, Daryl Sutter, and we won the Turner Cup down there, and Brian Noonan, Mike Eagles, Bobby Bass, and Jimmy Way was our goalie, Jimmy Playfair, some good ones, and I got called up, and I thought I was going to the East Coast League, but that's how it all started. And then I just said to myself, if I ever play the Devils, I'm going to go after them, not because I never fought to stay on the team. I never fought to better my chances of staying. I think it was just in my nature to jump in and help out. Being a college kid, they don't have fighting in college, But I learned, but I'll never forget it. The first guy, I think it was Rick Hayward, lined on a face-off with me. He goes, "Come on, you college pussy, let's go." And I kicked the living shit out of him. And Bruce Cassidy, he was on that team, brought all my shit to the penalty box. He said, "Plus, you just beat the toughest guy in the NHL." I said, "Oh shit, the word's gonna get out now. The word's gonna go." But they picked on the college kids, man. A lot of these kids never made it because they were scared and petrified on the ice. You know what I mean?
When you look back at your time, before we get to Ottawa and obviously the Devil stuff,
sure.
When you look back at your time in Chicago, what do you remember the most, or what were some of your best times or fondest memories, I guess, as being a member of a prestigious organization like the Chicago
Unbelievable.
Blackhawks?
Unbelievable. Chicago Stadium, unbelievable. Such great leadership. I used to watch these guys on TV. My dad, we didn't have cable TV in Pingilly. So I used to tag along with my dad. When he bowled, this old Italian guy ran the bowling alley, and he'd put the North Star games on TV, and I used to watch the North Stars. I'd say, "Holy shit, man." And then the guys would come up and they'd say, "Hey, Patsy, what the hell is who shot JR shit? Hey, get out of here. Kids watching the North Stars. Go bowl." And that's how it all started. I think Patsy alive today never probably dreamed I'd be a Hawk, But I'm so grateful to the Blackhawk organization for even giving me a tryout. I mean, I did ask the Devils, and they said no. And then I always said if I play the Devils, and I walk into the Meadowlands as a Blackhawk. I mean, I got sent up and down 13, 14 times. But I said, if I ever play the Devils, there's that little guy Burke sitting there, and I'm 6'7" on skates. I said, I couldn't play for the American Hockey League. I couldn't play for the East Coast League. I'm in the lineup tonight. I think Troy Crowder and I got it on, but it was just great leadership. Dirk Graham, Troy Murray, Doug Wilson. I mean, the list is endless. And coming up those Chicago Stadium stairs, Frankie Pellico, he used to be the organist in the old stadium. And he used to play the Godfather theme when I fought. I'm skating around. The Devils were so skilled. They could use another tough guy,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm skating around the ice, and I knew we were going to go somewhere at some point. Frankie Pellico, the organist from Chicago, starts playing the Godfather theme. Wait, do he play the Godfather? I said, Jesus Christ, Frankie, mate, I don't want to fucking fight tonight, No, 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 no. I said, holy shit, Frank, for Christ's sakes, you know.
So he played it. He played it right before you fought, essentially.
No, he did it when I fought, but sometimes he played prematurely.
It was like your entrance music.
I don't know about that. Fuck, my dad played the accordion, but yeah, Frankie Pellico, yeah, just a great organization. We went to the Cup and lost to Pittsburgh in I think '91, and then I thought most kind of my career probably would have ended in Chicago, and then expansion came on, and they picked me up. The Hawks said we're going to try to sneak them through, but then I got picked up by the Ottawa Senators, which is I owe everything to the Senators because they picked me up in expansion, gave me an opportunity. I was the only tough guy there, and signed me to a 3-year deal. And that's Ottawa was a special place for me. I went from a fourth line guy to a second line guy, and if I'm your second line guy, we're in fucking trouble. You know.
How did you find out you were going to the Senators? Do you remember how you found out?
Mike Keenan, I think, called. Or God bless Ottawa. Mel Bridgman. I mean, that was kind of a nuts, But I was the only guy there, and I tell you, I didn't mind. I loved it. I was never scared. I scored 15 that year. I would have had 20 easy, but I fought 24 times there too. By yourself. I had 20 majors, and then I just didn't like Buffalo Sabres at all. Buffalo liked to rub it in your face, And
they definitely had a lot of enforcers over the years, for sure.
Rob Ray and May and Barnaby, Donnelly, probably all a bunch of great guys. And I think my favorite play, everybody thinks Bobby Orr flying through the ice is your greatest moment. As much as I despise Lyle Oline fighting him, I keep telling him as I moved in with him, my favorite play was when you fired the puck in Buffalo's bench with about a minute to go. And he beat the shit out of me a couple times. He had that nub. He's a pig farmer. And he went off that ice with that nub, and I said, I'm going to stick that nub up your ass next shift, in a good way. These guys are the best, you know what I mean? So where the hell were we?
Wait, so rewinding a little bit. So Ottawa takes you in the expansion draft. How did you feel leaving the Blackhawks to go to Ottawa? Like, did you see it as an opportunity? Were you sad to leave the Blackhawks? Kind of how were you feeling in the moment, knowing that you're now leaving the Hawks to go to this new franchise?
Well, you know what? I was just one shift away from going to the minor leagues anyway. I was on a two-way. In those days, anybody could get sent to the minors.
Mm-hmm.
There was not many one-way contracts, and that's why they had some competitiveness in the locker room. I guess, it's one of those things where it didn't really affect me at all. I'm one shift away from going to the minor leagues anyway. So
you were just kind of rolling with the punches. Yeah. Wherever you ended up, you saw it as an opportunity, and you're just going to do your thing.
For me, even if I played one exhibition game, it was such an honor to even put on a uniform. You know what I mean?
No, I'd imagine, coming from where you did, that you had told me previously, you did not foresee yourself being in that position.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Alaska's everything to me. Just a quick story. I was going to go back to Alaska until I got the trial with the Hawks. I was going to go back to Alaska and be a forklift driver for Northern Intercargo. You should have seen me on a forklift. That was awful. And I told my dad, I called him, Mikey, what are you going into? I said, ology. He said, Jesus Christ, Mikey, if you got ology at the end of your deal, you're doing something pretty good. So any game in the NHL was good for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So then after that 92-93 season, you spend one season in Ottawa. I guess I got to touch on this because we briefly talked about it.
Sure.
One of the funnier kind of non-hockey off the ice things.
Mm-hmm.
For years and years when I was younger, I remember hearing about this. Everyone had said that the super smash hit famous Alanis Morissette song, You Ought to Know, was either about you or Dave Coulier, a.k.a. Uncle Joey from Full House. And I remember as a kid being like, this is just so crazy. It's like a show I grew up watching and one of my favorite Devils players. And it's like, this song is supposedly about one of them. I guess tell me about, dating Alanis Morissette and that whole thing with the song. And I'm sure you've heard about the rumor over the years as well.
Well, that year, I don't know if it was a 75 years league. Every team had a celebrity. You followed them around. He had Belushi in Chicago, and she was our celebrity because she's from Ottawa.
Okay.
And then they did this cover photo, no body, what's it called? Body check. That was pretty, and she just hung around the team in a good way. But you got to understand, in my generation, being a gentleman on off days, holding hands in a French kiss back then was making love, So we just hung out, and then we're on a losing. Well, we lost so many games that year. I was in Vancouver playing the Vancouver Canucks, and a lot of the guys from Alaska would come. Ricky Ellison, he was from Vancouver. I played with him in Alaska, and he wanted to get tickets for Vancouver game. So I got Ricky at the game, and then we went out for beers, and he points across the bar and he says, "Mike, you and that girl you guys would make a good couple. Just go say hi to her." And it was Jennifer Young, and I just said, "Jen, how you doing, Mike Peluso?" I didn't say I'm a hockey guy or, wheel her out of there. And we just started talking. I said, "I was from the Senators, blah, blah, blah." And then I said, "Well, shit, why don't you just come to Ottawa and move in, And Alanis and I, we just hung out, And then, so I remember it, and we're on a losing streak. The Rights Dempsey's not scoring 20. And again, we get to the Christmas party, and she was really good friends with our owners, because she was a celebrity. And I'll never forget it because she went up to Jen and said, "When I'm making it big someday, you're going to be sitting in a fucking wise room." I didn't, really, that's before Jake Little Pill, but I don't think we ever had that kind of relationship, But I don't even know who the hell Coulier is. He wants to drop the gloves with me after Jake Little Pill. Let's get it on.
I don't think Uncle Joey from Full House would be a good match for you.
No, she was. I'm trying to think who would be the Devils sub. It was a celebrity season, and yeah, we just didn't have that kind of relationship. And like I said, I was always a gentleman on off days. Most guys were, right?
But did you actually date her?
Yeah.
For how long?
Well, you got to understand, some. I was getting ready for games too. I mean, you got to look at Ottawa. I played 81 games there, and I fought every night. And I got suspended one game, 82. I mean, sometimes you didn't sleep at night, fighting these guys. And so I was more worried about, the game, these guys I used to fight. And there was really no break. And I know she sang the anthem there. I know. She signed a CD for me, and that's good enough for me. I tried to play her shit, because I covered the jukebox. I was kind of like a Casey Kasem guy, without the top 40 and the love songs. I kind of ran the jukebox in most of these rinks. Oh, another Ottawa story. Talk about running the jukebox. Laurie Boschman, he was a New Jersey Devil, right?
Yep. So
and Butchie Smale.
Him before.
And I'm running the jukebox. And a couple of these guys were born again Christians. And I got to fight these guys. I got to play AC/DC, Highway to Hell, and all that shit. Laurie Boschman comes up to me as our captain. Mike, I love God, and I think that I don't like that song. I said, well, then you can play Kumbaya. Do you see that lineup? McKenzie, Janssens, Oderline, Roberge. You go fight them, and you can play whatever you want. Mike, I kind of like Highway to Hell by AC/DC.
You gave the Dean Martin a rest for the night?
What? I was a big Dean Martin fan.
I was a big
Dean Martin fan. Yeah, my dad played the accordion, and sticking with Dean Martin, the Devils, they had a moment of silence for me when he passed Christmas Day, 1995. Yeah.
All right, so after the 92-93 season, June 26, 93, you're traded to the Devils as part of a trade that sent Craig Billington, Troy Millette, and the Devils' fourth-round choice in the entry draft to Ottawa. Now, what do you remember when you found out that news, and how did you feel about that at the time, leaving Ottawa now after 1 year to go to the Devils?
Well, as my dad was a miner, he was an electrician, and he was one of the best electricians, and the phone would ring, and they'd call him, and he said, "Mike, I'm not here. He's not here because you got to climb poles and electrical." And I remember the call, and he calls, and he puts me on the line, and he goes, "This is Mike. We fucked up with you. We made a trade today." And I said, "Yeah." I said, I said, "Oh my God, that's great. Any chance someone wants to pick me up as a trade, I'm in." I just told him I'm not going to disappoint. I said, I'm coming. And then it was Cosmic Dubal, I think. And Sidorkowich's shoulder was all messed up. He only played one exhibition game. His shoulder, he had a career-ending injury. And I think, don't quote me on this, I'm paraphrasing. But I think Lou called Ottawa and said, we need, what do you call it? Where you rights or something. They need some shit coming back. Yeah, compensation. And I think, paraphrasing, I think Ottawa says they'll send Peluso back. He says, no, we're good to go.
Tell me about when you first got to New Jersey and met. Was this the first time you ever met Lou Lamoriello after the trade?
Yeah. He came up to me and said, we fucked up with you. Because I was drafted by him in 10th round out of high school. By Marshall Johnson was a GM, or he was a head of scouting. And I just said, I was playing Legion baseball. You just got drafted by the Devils. I said, holy shit. And then Lou just said, we fucked up with you. And I said, well, I know you didn't. Everything's good. And I get to camp and no one's talking to me. I used to beat the shit. Now, they beat the shit out of me too. It goes both ways. And I'm sitting there. And then finally, Randy Mack, who I just absolutely love and just incredible guy. He came up to me, taping our sticks. He said, we have it. Hey, Mikey, we have it a few battles together. I said, hell yeah. I said, listen, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to fight you. You guys got me over here to help you fucking guys,
Randy was just on a couple nights ago, as you know, and he had mentioned he believes you're the guy he fought the most. He said 11 times you fought prior to you joining the Devils, obviously, sure. When you were in Chicago, he was in Detroit, and then there was a couple others while he was on the Devils where he fought, and he said that you guys didn't speak for a month after you got there. Do you remember that?
Well, Scotty didn't say much either. I mean, I wasn't there to fight them, these guys. I mean, I'm on their side now, and he just said it, and then we went from there. I mean, I don't know why the hell we're fighting in training camp anyway when we got a full dance card and exhibition,
Was fighting in training camp common back then?
Yeah.
Do you remember fighting anyone in Devils training camps?
Yeah, Reed fucking Simpson.
I don't know. So one of those first couple years,
well,
you fought him in
I was camp? Coming out from the South Mountain. I got tipped off. And he fucking wanted to go. And we went 3 times. And I busted him up pretty good, with all due respect, because I got my ass kicked quite a bit too. And they're stitching him up on the fucking table. Teddy shook. And I'm saying, how's he doing? In a good way. And then I said, enjoy your fucking stay in Albany. But we could have used them in exhibition, Yeah,
what a different time, especially the preseason games. I tell a lot of the younger kids during that time when I was a kid, I remember, obviously everyone likes hockey fights. I mean, how could you not? And as a kid, I remember not only was the fighting way more prevalent during the regular season, but as you've alluded to, the preseason games were just insane. I remember going to, Devils Flyers, Devils Islanders, Devils Rangers. And on most of those nights at the Burn and eventually Continental, in those division rivalry games in the preseason, you would probably see on average 5 to 6 fights in every single game. And I just remember as a kid being like, preseason, a lot of people are like, oh, they thumb their nose at the preseason and, oh, it's not the same. And I was like, I always liked seeing young, promising rookies in the organization get a chance during the preseason, as well as what you knew was going to be some entertaining fisticuffs for guys trying to make the lineup as well.
Well, a lot of it too, Ace, is we're protecting our fucking skill guys.
93-94, you come, Devils have a very good season, go 47, 25, and 12, 106 points, finish second in the Atlantic. And then eventually, I'm just going to skip, you guys beat the Sabres in the first round. I guess I got to talk about that, right? The 93-94 series against the Sabres. Yeah. Do you remember the marathon game?
I do.
Which it was game 6. Devils lose a painful one in quadruple overtime by a score of 1-0. Goaltending duel for the ages between the young Martin Brodeur and your old buddy from Chicago, Dominic Hasek. What do you remember about that game?
Well, let's go back to 93. When I arrived, what happened was we didn't want Scott Stevens to sit in the penalty box. I think I had 20, 23, 24 majors that year, so he's not fighting. Scott Stevens will knock the shit out of you, but we didn't want him in the penalty box. You know what I mean? And if you
You had
look at
you
his
had
stats, when he
238.
scored 90 points that year,
You had
scored 90 points that year.
You had 238 penalty minutes in 93-94. So I'd imagine that was quite a bit of fighting behind those penalty minutes. And in 93-94, Scotty had 78 points, 18 goals, 60 assists for 78 points. Wow.
And like I said, we didn't. He's as tough as shit. And I remember when I was part of that shit show in St. Patrick's Day Massacre in Chicago, and they ran. I think it was Twist or Chase ran Lomer and Ronick, and it was open season on them. They all got 10 minutes misconducts. So they sent Stu Keenan, not even a line change, threw me and Grimson out there. I have Brett Hall strung out like this. And he goes, what's that going to prove? What is that going to prove? And that's when Scott Stevens and Dave Manson went right to center ice. And then I got 10 games for that. And then back to the fucking minor leagues. But anyway, when I came over, we don't want him in the penalty box. But I thought, looking back at this, that was probably the best chance to win a Norris. I can't believe this guy never won a Norris. I think Ray Bork won it, but Scotty was incredible player, incredible.
Yeah, they gave the Norris to Bork. It is crazy that throughout Stevens' career, as good as he was, that he never got a Norris.
We just didn't want him fighting every game. I mean, he's probably the toughest guy in the league that time, and we just didn't want him fighting. And I'm not going to back down to anybody. I made that commitment to myself and my teammates as a fat kid. I'm stepping in. I just always try to take someone with me. Thank you to Pat DiPuzzo for saving my life a few times on the ice.
Was he your favorite ref?
The only one, they're all right. Massenhoven, Frazier, Morelli. Fucking Van Helmen sucks. Even though I like Van Halen, the band, he sucks. He always light me up.
Yeah.
Andy Van Helmen,
Back to the Sabres game. Do you remember because it went to 4 overtimes, it was more than 2 games in one. Do you remember
Well, I got injured there and I wanted to get out there. I got injured there, but I came back. I don't know what the fuck happened.
Were you on the bench when the game ended?
Yeah, I was, and then Pep got thrown out and he's trying to cut the cords with his skates, the camera cords. Thank God he didn't electrocute himself going off the ice at the odd. I think we started that series out 93, 94. Brad May and I went right to center ice. It was a good fight to start the series. I didn't like him. He didn't like me. And we didn't do it to set the tone, and go from there. But Dominic, yeah, I used to hang out with goaltenders, Eddie Belfour and Dominic Hasek. I used to take care of him in Chicago, commute together. I told Eddie, are we best friends? Are you superstitious? He let in 5 goals. He said, next day, he said, Plus, we are superstitious, Dominic, Marty and I used to commute to the South Mountain from Excelsior. I was always friends with goaltenders. Marty wasn't that superstitious. I did a little shoulder surgery on the turnpike, but other than that, it all worked out. And all these goaltenders, they signed the big contracts, and I'm still in an apartment.
It is crazy how you played with 3 of the greatest goalies of all time in your career.
Yeah.
In Eddie Belfour, Dominic Hasek, and obviously Marty. 3 all-time just legends and winners. Okay, so 93-94, you get through Buffalo in 7 games after losing that 4 overtime heartbreak to the Sabres. Right. Get through Buffalo in 7. And then the Bruins in the second round. Devils beat the Bruins in 6 before we get to what a lot of hockey historians consider one of the greatest playoff series of all time. Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Rangers. I guess before I even get into Game 7, what do you remember, I guess, leading up to that series and then anything from throughout that series?
Well, as Randy said, he predicted the game, but if it wasn't for Richter, that thing's over 4-2. I mean, Richter had 30 saves in 2 periods, and we were up 2-0. And then I think turned the puck over, and then Kovalev scored. I'm usually good in the locker room, keep guys going a little bit. And I was a little nerve-wracking there, but going to Game 7, I mean, we didn't score, but Randy had a shitload of chances, and I had a couple in. But anyway, yeah, and then kind of broke down crying a little bit because I wanted to I want to be a part of it and move on. But yeah, then that's how it all happened.
What do you remember about the Messier, the famous Messier guarantee game in Game 6? Like you said, the Devils had the lead, and then it just got away
I
from
played
them.
for Mike. I played for Mike Keenan. He's gave me an opportunity. I just know, he's always bitching at everybody. I think that he benched the whole team, and he just one little turnover, and then we're back there. But Stefan Mercier, he was most of my roommates through the years, and he could fire it. And
Was that up to that point? Was that Game 7 loss your most kind of heartbreaking moment in hockey?
Yeah, I guess. I think losing to the Penguins and with Chicago in the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, we won 4 straight every series we played, and that was a heartbreak against the Penguins.
Yeah,
And,
Yager and Lemieux were crazy back then.
I know in warm up, I didn't even go and take a face off or anything. Or you do the drills, the breakout shit. I just cruised the red line and I elbowed not hard Yager, and then here comes Lemieux, and then Rick Tocchet steps in there. We just, get shit going,
So you elbowed Yager during warm-ups?
Well, not in the warm-up in Pittsburgh. I didn't elbow him in the head. I just kind of got shit going.
Yeah, you gave him a little nudge.
Tocchet jumped in there, but Dirk Graham, with all due respect to all the captains I played, Dirk Graham was the best captain. He's an incredible guy. Dirk Graham out of Chicago, and Scott, some good ones, yeah. So that was a heartbreak loss there, and of course, the Rangers in double overtime, obviously losing the Eastern Conference final there. And then, for us to come back and,
We're setting the table. So Devils lose Game 7, heartbreaking loss. That's the season I became a fan as a kid. Growing up in northern New Jersey, surrounded by Rangers fans, tormented by them at school. I was telling Randy about this. And then to lose that Game 7 in the fashion that we did, it was just totally heartbreaking. But as a young kid, I remember, being, I guess, optimistic about the future because it seemed like, the Devils now have pieces in place to really make a push to be a good team year after year going forward. So now we head into that summer. What do you remember now about the summer kind of leading up to the 94-95 season? And then obviously it was a strike shortened season. What do you kind of remember about that time?
Well, in the summers, I worked my ass off. I didn't sit back. I was running roads, and I had to stay up on it. You know what I mean? And then come back and start training camp over again in a good way, right? And get I focus on the exhibition games. I'm lucky I'm alive, to be honest. First of all, I was way too good looking to be an enforcer. I mean, I had the long hair and black eyes, broken noses. I played the role. If I cut my hair, I looked like I was 14 years old. Some of these guys I fought, they look like the roster of Rikers Island. And Lou would kind of, hey, I wish we had hair like that. I didn't cut it. Broken nose, black eyes, long hair. I'm telling you. And then hurt attendance. And I thought Samson got his strength from his hair. You know what I mean? I don't know what the hell he ever did in his life, but I think he was so.
That era of the NHL had definitely some of the scariest and most deadly heavyweight enforcers hockey has ever seen. When you look back at your career, you fought pretty much every tough guy there was.
Yeah.
When you look back at it, who do you think were the toughest or like the hardest guys to fight of all those murderers that you did fight over your career?
All of them. Ottawa, yeah, McKenzie. He came out. I knocked that Jansen down, and then I fought McKenzie out the next shift. But they're all tough as shit. I mean,
Big Jim. Former
they're
Devil
tough as
well.
shit. Yeah, right on. I mean, you look back at then you want to get into the 95 season, but if you're going to stick to the toughness, Randy Mack had a pulled hip flexor, in 96. You stick to the program, but I think my best game I ever had, he goes, what the hell's he talking about? 96 exhibition. Well, I knew they were going to dress a goon squad, an exhibition. And we had rookies there, Sikora, all these guys, and they were white as a ghost. And they become my best friends because I protect them. I knew they're going to dress the goon squad. And these guys were petrified. I was even
going into the Garden against the Rangers.
In an exhibition. And Randy Mack is as tough as they come. He had a pulled hip flexor. And I went in there and had all these rookies in there, Scott Niedermeyer, and I'm walking in Madison Square Garden. I'm petrified. And these kids, Zakora, Patrick Eliash, oh, they're scared. And I was going through Lincoln Tunnel. They were white as a ghost. And I looked at their lineup and I said, Plus, what are you going to do? I said, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish. Daryl Sutter always told me, finish your checks, look people in the eye, and those things come. So I did, and Langdon and I got it on. And then this Jeff Nielsen, he's a Grand Rapids guy. I'm a Greenway Coleraine guy. He ran Steve Sullivan. I tried to get my hands on Nielsen, and then that Boulan jumped in. I knocked him out. And then I said, fuck it, I might as well fight Eric Cairns. I just saved 10 fucking careers.
I know 3 fights in the one game.
Yeah, and when I walked into Madison Square Garden with Scott Niedermeyer, no one went near Niedermeyer. I'd have died on the ice for that guy. I said, Needs, I'm Alaskan. Alaskan Kodiak Brown Bear can take a polar. And I'm using reverse psychology on myself. He goes, Plus, I said, listen, Needs, you know me, salmon, Alaskan Kodiak Brown Bear? He said, Plus, polar bears eat seals. Oh, they do? And we're trying to figure out who's tougher, the polar bear. And I walk into that locker room and I said, oh shit, this is gonna be a long night. Not a long night. So anyway, my left hand's beat up. I just saved at least 8 careers. I go to South Mountain Rink and I go to the hotel at, the little, it's worse than the Red Roof Inn. Tom Odette will leave the lights on, the doors open. So I get back to my room. There's shit everywhere, all my clothes. So I go to the front desk. I said, what happened to my room? Well, your wife came in. I'm not married. I said, I'm not married. Yeah, she just came in and she wanted a key. I said, holy shit. I couldn't figure it out. So here I am, my hands busted up. I had the game of my life protecting these guys. I go to South Mountain Rink for the next practice and she comes flying into there. She's an Italian girl out of Pittsburgh, a fan mail, Pittsburgh. Yogi Bear's sitting there. Yeah, right, Peluso. I said, I just saved 3 careers. No, I said, if that was a skill guy, she wouldn't get near that Red Roof Inn. Yeah, Peluso, right. Yeah, you're with her. I said, no. I said, Jesus. And no one believed me. As a tough guy, no one believed me. They said, you're with her. I said, I don't even know who the hell this girl is. She storms the South Mountain Rink, and Yogi's going, holy shit. I said,
wait. While you were at the game, a woman essentially pretended to be your wife, and you weren't even married at the time, pretended to be your wife, and then rifled through your stuff in your room?
Yeah, the Red Roof Inn. Well, it's not the Red Roof. It was some shithole next to the Turtle Mountain.
The Turtle Brook Inn.
Yeah.
And then when
the next day, I was everybody was hugging the shit out of me because I saved 3 careers. My hands beat up. So I'm just feeling pretty good. I mean, I'm not like Doc Holliday and do a couple shots of whiskey, but so I get there the next morning for practice, and she comes flying into there. Italian gal looking for me. I couldn't believe it. No one's going to believe an enforcer. Yeah, right, Peluso. I said, well, Johnny Mac, I said, this is not my wife. I don't know this girl. And then Yogi Bear's going, I got to watch out for those Italian gals, Peluso. I said, Yogi, you get the hot Italian chicks out of, with the Yankees. I'm telling you the truth. And I think Yogi Bear is the only one that believed me.
Wait, so just so for the people watching that don't know, Yogi Berra was very good friends with the Devils' original owner, John McMullen, and he often would work out at South Mountain amongst you guys with Dr. Mac, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that. Yogi Berra, legendary Yankee, obviously 10 million World Series rings as a player and manager. He was always around the team, and so apparently Yogi was at the practice rink during this dilemma that Mike encountered with a young, crazed female fan who posed as his wife, apparently. What a wild story. Whatever happened to her? Did you have to file a restraining order or something?
Nah, I don't know where the hell she went. She went back to Pittsburgh. I have no idea, but she was an Italian gal, Yogi used to work out next to Dr. McMullen on the bike, I said, Yogi, he's some of those Italian girls, they can get crazy. I said, Yogi, that's not my wife. Daniel's going, they're all fuck.
All right, now we're rewinding. We left off Game 7, heartbreaking elimination. We go into the strike short in 94-95 season. Devils have an okay year, 22-18-8 for 52 points. Nothing really spectacular. Weren't really on most people's radar to be a cup contender, even though we had made it to the conference finals the year before and lost to the eventual cup champion, the Rangers. And I will say, I always maintain that had the Devils won that Game 7, they definitely would have beat the Canucks in the finals. But, one of
Yeah, right.
those things we'll never know.
Hypotheticals.
But now we're going into the 95 playoffs. What do you remember about now from the end of regular season heading into the playoffs in a first round matchup with the Bruins?
Well, I think to an extent, I think, we were kind of borderline. I think it was, I really believe we kind of got on a roll because, like Bobby and Randy, we could change the tides of the games. And I think when we're playing the Panthers at Sunrise, the old rink, and Bobby scored, Randy scored, I scored, and had an assist, and I beat the shit out of that Laws guy, and it kind of turned it over there a little bit. And then, of course, I'm excited as hell to go back. We stayed at Durrell Golf Course, and Pep and I used to always go out, and so I remember that kind of getting us going a little bit. We all contribute to get us going a little bit, and I think that was for our line and the team, because we could always kind of change the momentum. But I remember that one too, and of course, Bobby Olik was my roommate at the time back then, and he's out the door early. And the Sunrise, you got to look at that Sunrise game, because I had a Gordie Howe, Randy scored, Bobby scored, and kind of turned it around there a little bit. And we stayed at the Durrell Golf Course there, and Pep and I went out. But yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time Jacques put you guys together?
Yeah, it was definitely 90, 93, 94. Yeah. Because like Bobby said, I think Jacques Montreal always had that fourth line, right? I think it was Tremblay and them guys. And that's kind of how it all started, and it was definitely 93, 94. And then Doc Emmerich named us the Crash Line.
I was going to say, so do you remember when I meant to ask Randy this and I forgot.
Yeah.
Because I was super young, so I don't recall the origin of it. But do you remember
my first year there, 93, 94?
And Doc Emmerich is the one that came up with the
Yes,
Crash Line?
he called, the nickname, him and Peter McNabb.
Wow. And then at what point did you realize like how popular you guys were, as individual players, but also as a line? Because obviously I showed Randy, I have you guys on the wall here, immortalized in the shrine. The Crash Line will live on forever. At what point, did you realize kind of how big you guys became as a line to the Devils fans?
Well, Randy or Bobby was great. He didn't drink or anything like that, but we were going to have the Crash Line Club there remember that old Fridays on Route 17? And so we're going to do the Crash Line Club. But yeah, that's 93, 93, 94. Yeah, right on. It just, like Bobby said, Mario Tremblay, the Montreal Canadiens, I was at a fourth line. And, with the Crash Line, you're not going to believe this, but I was kind of the quarterback on the line. I'm not a hashboard kind of power play guy, but I would look at the bench and whatever Jock did, this means you change. And then that was half a shift. And the pressure's on the centerman. So I look at Jock on the bench in the Boston Garden. I go up to Bobby, what do you say? I said, let's play this one out. And Cam Neely, they scored on us, and then Jock's going after Bobby. It was my goddamn fault. I should have told him, half a shift or change right away. We were just getting tired of not playing because they would put their first line against us, knowing that we would change, So when you ever see that shit or that, it's either play a half a shift and get the hell off the ice,
Claude Lemieux had some real battles with Cam Neely in that first round.
Yeah.
What a great kind of matchup.
Yeah, I years ago I lined up on a face-off with Cam Neely, and I think it was the Devils, and I lined up in a face-off, and I said, "You're my idol. I'll never lay a hand on you. I'm just here for a picture." He said, "Smile," because I knew I was changed. I'd never lay a hand on Cam Neely. He's my idol, He goes, "Smile." He leaned into me, and I leaned into him. He thought it was crazy. And you're not supposed to talk to the players, which I never did. We're gonna change. I'm just here for a picture. I wouldn't lay a hand on you ever. We'll just smile. And I took off at the bench and get, Bobby Carpenter or Neil Broughton's line against him, But they dressed up, believe it or not, they dressed up. Rod, was it Gendron? He was our video guy. Gendron, he did the videos. And they dressed him up as Cam Neely. He got his ass kicked on the ice. And Claude Lemieux was two-handed him. Our video guy played Cam Neely on the ice. You know?
Wait, what do you mean he played? What do you mean by he played him?
Well, they dressed him up. He was a video guy, you know, and he came from Maine. He was a head coach of Maine Black Bears.
Okay.
So they dressed him up, yeah, in practice. So, yeah.
So Devils beat the Bruins
Mhm.
in 5, but I'm gonna have to pull up a video because you played an integral part in this, and I played it with Randy. Devils with a 2-1 series lead, heading into Game 4 at the old Burn. 0-0. It goes to overtime, and then we get hit. Wait till after the video to give your commentary because the sound kind of gets. But we see a young Marty here, and this is one of the most memorable Devils goals ever. We're gonna let it play.
The other through college. One coach has won a lot of championships as a player. Both he and the other coach are looking for their first as coaches in the NHL. The Devils have it. Peluso on for Randy McKay and back in. Locker sets it up. Double team, they score!
The crash line, Michael, forechecking.
Randy McKay in overtime, seemingly harmless, but with the crashers out there, you never know. Ago in Montreal, his father watched him play as a little tyke. Well, his father's here tonight watching him play again. Randy McKay, the overtime winner, breaking a scoreless duel between Blaine Locker and Martin Brodeur. 62 shots. The 62nd one ends the game.
So obviously... a relentless forecheck by Mike Peluso. Give me your recollection and kind of the rundown on that.
Usually I never got Mo Pelou. I was always 1 foot out of position. But
tell them about Mo Pelou. Tell the people what that is.
Okay, so let's go back to the play quick.
Okay.
I had good position there. No, after the fact, Pelou, sure shit. So anyway, I usually should have skated, got to the red and dumped it in, but I always get it to Randy, and then I was flying in there, and I felt I could get to him before I get a shot collar from Jacques to turn back, and I just try to get a hold of him. Plus, he's a Grand Rapids guy, and I'm a Greenway guy. That roll off was from Grand Rapids. I wanted a piece of him anyway, and then he just turned it around and went in. Yeah, I see Jacques shaking his head. I understand because I felt I could get to him though, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we used to get. I didn't get Mo Pelou that often. I was always 1 step out of position, but I could take it, right?
So tell them about the whole Mo Pelou thing, though.
Okay,
so what that is.
Well, 95, we were so close to 95, and Jacques would come in, and we didn't have highlight tapes. It was just if you're 1 spot out of position, and you go, we have Mo Pelou, or I didn't get Mo Pelou. You go, Mo Needs, Mo Scotty, Scott Stevens, Mo Reish, Mo this, when you're in a good position. We didn't give highlight videos. I was always 1 step out of position. I think the only time I got Mo Pelou was when I had a Gordie Howe against Florida. So anyway, we used to go like we're kiss asses. You know, like Mo Needs, yeah, give it to me, guys. Give it to me. And then they go, Mo Johnny Mac. Give it to me, guys. Well, Pep wasn't getting Mo, and he's one of the best. And Mo Scotty Stevens got it. He goes, all right, give it to me, guys. And I seen Pep go up. He got up. I said, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. He was going to the training room. Pep comes behind Scott Stevens. I said, Pep, don't do it. I try to get in between him and say, don't do it. But at that time, he goes, Scott Stevens, as big as Claude Lemieux is, he was in the damn cold tub. He was in the cold tub. Jimmy Dowd's full of shit when he said, "Oh, when I joined this team, they were fighters and shit." No, we just took it, mow this, mow that. But we go kiss, like we're kiss asses. But
So
Pep took it a little too. He took it further, and
he was kind of breaking Scott Stevens' balls a little bit.
Little bit, yeah. We all got mow this, mow that, but we go kiss asses, in a good way. But he took it a little further.
So you told Claude not to do it, and then he did it.
I said, "Don't do it. Don't do it, Pep. Don't do it."
And then what did Stevens do?
I tried to get in between him and said, "Pep, you got to stop." I said, "Pep, you got to stop." At that point, as big as Pep is, Scott's the greatest. I love Scott Stevens. He was in the cold tub. And big Claude Lemieux is.
Huge.
Yeah, So that's how the mow started.
Wow. So then,
yeah.
Did that linger after that, or was it?
No, hell no. No, hell no. Hell no. Hell no. We weren't that kind of team.
One and done.
Oh yeah, we were that kind of team.
Wow.
I mean, we were just that kind of team. It's just who we were. It's about it. But what a great team, great group of guys. I think Bernie Nichols got traded in 93, 94, and I think he was out of there. But yeah, I was more this. I was always see, some guys didn't like to make the video because it was just instructional, and I could take it. And Mo Pelou, you got to come over a little bit. And I could take it. I said, "Oh yeah, I got to get one more step over," But some guys didn't like to make the. You're not on the video for highlights, But I don't have to deal with this anymore. Half shifts and make sure you turn.
So after that amazing goal by Randy in Game 4 overtime,
right?
Devils, you guys go to Boston, close it out in 5, and like I told Randy, I mean, if that goal doesn't happen, the series could have been tied 2-2, and the whole series could have changed, and ultimately the whole postseason and the cup may have never happened. So that's obviously a massive goal.
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
you look back on it. So then you guys go up against the Penguins, a team you were pretty familiar with. In the second round, you guys beat them in 5. What do you remember about that series?
Well, we were so close in 95 as we were so structured, and any goal can set you back, there's so many highlights. I would say that shitty goal that kind of trickled over the line. There's so many changes in that series. Scotty Steven taking the bull by the horn, and he rushed it up the ice and scored. And then, of course, coming home against those guys, I think there were so many turning points, but there's so many players that stepped up, not get credit for the Bruce Driver, when he broke up that 2-on-1 against Philly the other way. Pittsburgh really, didn't really bother us. I mean, I don't, in my opinion, but after the fact, they weren't all that tough anyway. But who was their goalie, Riggett?
Yeah, Ken Riggett.
Yeah.
Ken Riggett. You guys beat Yager in the Pens. I mean, they had some other. I mean, when you look at their roster, really, Ron Francis, Larry Murphy, Yager, Kevin Stevens. I mean, they had some guys. Big Jim McKenzie was on that team. Sandstrom,
I don't remember Jimmy being on that Pittsburgh team in the lineup.
Let's see.
Because Jimmy was tough as shit. I fought him in Hartford, but I don't. He, probably a great guy, but he wasn't. He was probably on the roster, but didn't play. That's why I was saying that how grateful I am. One year we didn't make the playoffs with Ottawa, and we didn't make it in New Jersey, and I'm just grateful that the coaching staff have a little confidence in me and playing, because usually they take the goon out,
Mm-hmm. So Pittsburgh goes down in 5, and then one of my other on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Another one of my more memorable or favorite series over Devils, history. Conference Finals against the Philadelphia Flyers and the Legion of Doom and Eric Lindros and all the hype and the Battle of the Turnpike.
Sure.
So what do you remember about that series?
Well, I played in that spectrum many times. I've just figured because I'm a big Flyer fan, because we only had 3 channels on the Iron Range, and they used to put the Flyer games on, and they had that damn Peter Puck used to talk, but we were just deep, and they dressed a few guys, but we were just deep, and I would say there's not really a turning point. I think we were just all over them, and we had so much depth. Reach was my roommate most of those games, and and he just lit it up, and he so many, what I mean. It's just we could play roll 4 lines, and we always had a system. We didn't, just put it this way: as good as Scott Niederderm is an amazing player. That our defensemen had shot collars on. They used to complain that because we don't pinch. And he used to shock these, Scott Niederderm, get your ass back, but just dump it in and go after him. Smart, cycle pucks. Scotty Stevens and Lindros didn't get along, and I tried to. I didn't want to take nothing's worse than taking a stupid penalty and leave your team, on the penalty kill. We could go out. We could go any way you wanted, and then we beat them 2-0, and then we had a setback. They interviewed me when when our second man hadn't been there in those home games when we went down to. They tied the series up. We went out there and we almost tied it up in game 3. See, 3. Randy scored, I scored, and then I knew it was kind of over, so I whacked Hextall. I just 2-handed him, and they came fucking at me, and I was throwing lefts and just try to take the momentum into the next game. And then, of course, that tight series 0-0, and Mr. Clutch came down that right side and buried that wrist shot. And then, of course, we put him to sleep in game 5 or 6 at the middle
game
end.
5 was when Claude scored like under a minute left. And he ripped it past Hextall.
Yeah, we just buried him after that. I just remember my mom quickly. She had a daycare, and I was so grateful to play in the playoffs. So I collected everybody's stick after the game. So my mom ran a daycare, and I was collecting these sticks from Chicago on the playoffs. And all of a sudden, I get home for the daycare. My dad cut them all the way down to chin level, and they're playing hockey. So I got Lindros a stick, but I don't mean it in a bad way. But yeah, it was a rough series.
So your dad cut them down for the kids to play with.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's
so
okay.
Game 6, Devils win at home. First time as a franchise going to the Cup Finals. What do you remember now about that game? With the ceremony, the Prince of Wales Trophy. You guys now, it's a year later, redeeming yourselves from the Game 7 heartbreak at the Garden, and now finally getting over the hump, knocking the Flyers out, and now finally going to the Cup Finals. What do you remember about the end of, I guess, the Game 6?
Just not changing my routine for all these years. You know what I mean?
What was the routine?
Well, I said, you got to be mentally ill not to get scared before a game with all these fighters. And I just had 2 beers at a strip joint and went home. That's it.
After the game?
No, a couple of nights before. I just couldn't sleep, and I didn't date anybody. I was a gentleman, but I just didn't change my routine. And in fact, I used to go to Shakers and just have a couple beers and then go back home before the game because I didn't sleep at night. And then they just a couple gals, just friends of mine. Like I said, I was a gentleman. Can you get tickets for the Rangers Devil game? That was going back a ways. It was just about my routine. I said, yeah, I'll get you tickets to the Devils Ranger game. Like Dano, when I got there, I said, Dano, hey, Plus, we got to take the crowd out a bit early. And I said, Jesus, we're at home, So I didn't change up my routine, got them tickets. I don't even know these girls that well. They all dressed up, get them tickets. I said, and have fun there. I think there's a wives room, a hospitality room. I don't go in there. Well, they're all, next day, I scored. Going back, I didn't change my routine. I scored against the Rangers, and I fought Sherla. So the next day, in practice, Jacques comes in. Guys, we got a problem in the wives room. I said, well, that how the hell is that going to affect me? I don't even go in there. Lou come down on me on the wives room, and I said, well, fuck, it's got to be. There must have been a cat fight in there. I don't know. McLean or Scott Stevens' wife went toe to toe, and I'm like, fuck, it can't be me. Well, we win 6. We in 6 good position. I said, Jesus, what the hell is he going? Where the hell is he going with this? Well, what happened was they weren't stripping in the wise room. What happened? I think some of the guys came in there and said, "Hey, you were supposed to be picking up the kids at hey, nice to see you in the club the other night." The fuck? Hey, you were supposed to be picking up the kids at daycare. And I didn't even know anyone in there. Another player comes in there. Won't mention any names. Hey, I can't believe that. It was so good to see you on Wednesday. You're supposed to pick up the kids, and you're in fucking shakers. And I'm like, oh boy. And they were just saying they were supposed to pick up the kids at the daycares and all this shit. I said, but Mo Palou, that's another time I got. But if we win 7 in a row, we have stripping a wide room every night. I didn't date him.
You inadvertently got some of your teammates busted
because I didn't even know they were in there.
Hi to them.
No, I'm a single guy, man. I wasn't married. I mean, Jennifer, we dated and it was compatible. It's just every compatible gal I've been with, my crazy sister ran her off anyway. And I didn't change my routine. Went to Detroit.
We're getting there. So beat the Flyers in 6. Now it's off to the finals. Now go ahead. So now we're starting off on the road. Obviously, this team did not have home ice in any of the rounds. Road Warriors heading to the Cup Finals against the mighty Detroit Red Wings that no one in the media gave the Devils a chance whatsoever. So now pick me up where you guys are now on the road in Detroit, waiting to go into Joe Louis Arena for games 1 and 2 of the Cup Finals.
Yeah. Like you said, we're there 2 days before, and I'm not a nervous wreck. I mean, as McCarty and them guys, I always focused on, I'm not getting the 16, 17, 18 minutes. I just got to get the puck in and out, and I just didn't change my routine, and I just went to a strip joint
in Detroit.
Yeah, a suburb of Detroit where we stayed. Okay. And I'm just sitting there having a couple. I'm not talking hockey. And a gal come up to me. She's a Russian stripper. And we just started bullshitting and not anything physical, right? And I said, I'll get you a Ranger. I'll get you tickets there. You can be sitting with my family up there, the crazy Italians up there. And she just brought me home. And I stayed at her house. And I just got to drop me off at Joe Louis, for practice. And she did. And we didn't have to do much anything. And then they handed out those pendants, when we won. But yeah, I didn't change my routine. But again, I was a gentleman. I just didn't want to change up my routine. She just dropped me off at Joe Louis and taped up my sticks. I'm not in the media anyway,
So I think I played.
I think 3 of us. Huh?
That was before the first game of the Cup Finals.
Yeah. Because I had to get there early. I mean, I learned that routine by Steve Lorimer. He was my roommate, and I get to the rink early. I mean, I drove the trainers nuts because I'm already banging on the door, and these guys, Teddy Shook and these guys, they want some time off, and I just got there early. So yeah, and she ended up, sitting with my family. I turned her in. I guess they converted her into a Devil fan.
How early before games would you get there?
I apologize to the trainers. Because they're the best in the league, and they haven't eaten it.
Back in the day at home, they were 7:30 games. For a 7:30 home game at the old arena, what time roughly would you get to the arena?
About 4:30.
4:30. So you're the first guy.
These guys would ride the bus. I just took a cab because I had to prepare and all that. Teddy Shook and said, "Peluso, for Christ's sakes, what are you doing here so early?" It was just my routine, and I think I learned it from Steve Lorimer. And Steve Lorimer was an incredible player. And let's go back to the Rangers series. A lot of those guys were former Blackhawks. Brian Noonan, Mike Hudson, Eddie Olczyk, Steve Lorimer. That kind of hurt too. But Greg Gilbert. I played with these guys in Chicago. I said we're going to shake hands with these guys. At least they're they're former Hawks. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I just get there.
How paths, you kind of over the course of a career with former teammates and stuff, how you kind of cross paths throughout the rest of your career. So what did you do to prepare for the games, being that you were there so early? Like what was your routine once you got to the arena?
Well, they try to, I don't know, was Vassalero with Vassellini, he's an equipment guy, or he's a physical therapist or some damn thing. And I just took 3 Sudafeds and a Diet Coke. He's trying to push his Gatorade on me. I said, I don't do that shit, That's it. I sat next to Claude Lemieux. You know, I started bringing Rip Force. You know, yeah.
What was Claude like back then?
Unbelievable. I sat next to him in the practice rink and the game rink. I just remember, like Randy says, he's going through divorce. I didn't know that. I sat next to him, and the guy that handed out the paychecks, and she's got the car, she got the boyfriend, she got the vehicle. And I said, no, that's not his fault, Pep. You know, it's not his fault handing out paychecks. I did it. Probably the greatest assist I ever had. I used to send fan mail, and this beautiful woman sent me these modeling pictures. And I said,
She mailed them to you?
When we beat Boston, see, we used to stay at the Gunpoint. Well, it's called the Gunpoint Marriott because Lou liked to shut us down there. And I said, Pep, after we beat Boston, I said, Pep, there's a gal down there. Let me make a quick call because we didn't have cell phones. And she's got a friend. So we're going to meet at Greenwich Village. And she is gorgeous, you know.
This is during the 95 playoffs?
Yeah, after we eliminated Boston. So we took a trip
Okay.
down there and we're at the Greenwich Village and she's gorgeous. And I said, she's got a friend and we're just hanging out and we end up at her apartment. And I said, we better get back. Well, I knew they're not cheating on me, but I mean, I said, be careful. She's a sophisticated dame. I'm not used to this shit, you know? And then you get to the pregame meal and here's Johnny Mac, like he's cutting my lawn. I said, be careful. Well, they've been together for how many years and had a kid, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. And we used to go dancing too down in Daytona. Yeah. I said, that guy never even thanked me. I said, you don't have to walk around nervous. I said, she's just, I'm a fourth line guy, man. I couldn't afford that. On my fucking contract, you know.
Yeah,
So
contracts weren't the same. The contracts definitely weren't what they
no,
are
but
now.
he said, "Plus, can I bring her in?" I said, "Yeah, fuck. What do you mean? I'm not. Just be careful, you know." But and I think they've been married for many years out of L.A. Yeah, California. Yeah, he's great. I love him. Love him to death. Not so much for the cup, but just a great man. Yeah.
What guys were like the talkers in the locker room during that playoff run? Do you remember? Like, who were the more vocal guys of the group?
Well, we all were, I guess. I was always talking in a good way, you know. I mean, I just had to have the best 8 minutes and, you know, support Randy, get the puck in deep, finish the checks. And, you know, that one year, I think we were plus 75 as a fourth line in 93, 94. It really wasn't much talking, but I remember our power play had been struggling. I think we were struggling. So I walked into a power play meeting and I pull up a chair and Jacques goes, Mo Palou, the guys could get food poisoning. You wouldn't get on the power play. I said, I know, Jacques, but you never know. And I think loosen them up, just loosening up. I think they scored 8 and 17, you know. There's so many great guys on that team. I don't think there was one that was that vocal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in 93, 94, Bobby was a plus 28. Randy was plus 24. You were plus 19. Yeah. Wow.
I think I scored, I don't know, would I have 20 points that year?
In 93, 94, you had 20, 4 goals, 16 assists. Very
Bobby
good
had
memory
35.
with the numbers, Mr. Peluso. You're very on the money with the numbers.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I have three.
Called me out for.
I have three playoff goals and 4 game winners. Not too shabby for the long-haired prick from Pengilly.
not too shabby at all. All right, so Devils win both games in Joe Louis Arena. Take the 2-0 lead. Shock probably, you know, the entire Wings team, the hockey world at large. Devils fans are feeling like on cloud 9, and you come back to the burn for game 3. And I want to before we get to that, I want to play you a video here.
Well, just quickly, when we beat him in Detroit on game 2, my brother was at the game. He swears that Scott Niedermayer on that rush banged it off the boards and roofed it. It was Scott Niedermayer did that on purpose. When he goes end to end against Detroit in third period, he banked it off the boards and roofed it. He did that on his own.
Did anyone ever ask him if he banked it off the boards on purpose?
Nah, we're just trying to figure out what's tougher, a polar bear or a fucking Kodiak, you know?
Did at the time, it was very early on in his career, did you see the potential of Scott Niedermayer to become an all-time great the way his career played out? Like, did you foresee that, or did you just think he was just like a good young defenseman? But, you know, did you see really what
He was quiet, but he was quiet, but boy, he could skate, you know? I think a more off-ice guy, I think, well, Lou Lamoriello, I shit you not, he used to sit in a Sheridan and had binoculars who's coming out of the rink at the burn. And here I am with Scott Niedermayer and Brian Walson, rookies. I'm just grateful Scott Niedermayer handed me a great Pearl Jam's greatest hits. I was listening to big 80s, you know. But he was special. And then going back to Philly, just quickly, Bruce Driver, when Bruce Driver broke up that 2-on-1 and we went the other way, that was a turning point. I played with Eddie Belford, move the puck. Marty could move it. Yeah, but Scott Niedermayer, yeah, he was a special player. Special player. And then just to be a part of it, it's just great. Yeah. So get back to game 3, right?
Oh, wait, so give
game
me 1
3 at the
second.
burn.
I'm gonna pull something up. I just gotta. Where is it here? My God, this thing's so annoying.
Yeah, he was a hell of a player, man. I'm telling you. I think I played with 7 Jack Norris Trophy winners.
7?
In my career. Doug Wilson, Chris Chelios, Chris Pronger, Al McGinnis, Scott Niedermayer. At different times, you know.
No, but
I'm just grateful Nate sent me a photo of him in the Norris, Chris Chelios. Yeah. I'm just grateful I ever played with these guys. 7 Jack Adams Trophy winners.
What an era of NHL hockey, right?
Yeah, Mike Keenan was the first, Daryl Sutter, Alain Vigneault, Jacques Martin, Joe Quinville, and of course, Brian Sutter, and the best, Jacques Lemaire, the best.
Is Jacques your favorite coach that you've ever played for?
It's hard to say because I was so grateful to play in the league, you know. I'm just honored to even play one exhibition game, to be honest with you. I don't like to put people on the spot, my favorite. I'm just happy to play in the league and then be away, you know, win a Stanley Cup, right? I mean, it's just at 95, just a great group of guys and great team structured. Yeah, Jacques is absolutely the best I've ever seen and played for, and he just amazing. I always appreciate about Jacques is as he didn't want me out there fighting every shift either. He expected you to play and contribute offensively too. I mean, I think he did that with Chris Nyland, right? He kind of took Chris Nyland aside and said, you know, you can play too a little bit. You know what I mean? And then I think Chris, I love Chris Nyland. He was the assistant coach there. He lived in that Excelsior. Yeah.
Did a lot of guys live there at the time?
Yeah. Well, it was me and Marty. And before that, I think Crowder lived there. Some of the Giants lived there. I was in Hackensack. It was a little further commute, you know, to South Mountain. But yeah. The Excelsior. Yeah. Plus, they love the Italians too. They just love the Italian kids. Huh?
What was young Marty like back then? A young Marty Brodeur. He actually, it's crazy. I was telling Randy about this. When you're a young kid, you don't realize relatively how young some of the guys are. Marty was 22 when the playoffs started, and he turned 23 during that playoff run in 95, which is crazy to think about when you look back. But what was he like, at that point of his career?
Well, we used to commute from Excelsior to Hackensack to South Mountain, and for a goalie, he wasn't that superstitious. I'm trying to get him going. You know, let's go. We got to get going. I got to get there early. And he jumped in the car with me, and that big Dodge V10. And
I'll pull up the photo. Well, you know,
and anyway, so he's just a great guy, and of course, you know, I think he was married or I think he lived with his wife there or something. Yeah. He was great. Yeah, I didn't. You know, he had a great career. Obviously, a Hall of Famer. And a lot of it was our system too. You know what I mean? But I always appreciate him because he could move the puck. Eddie Belfour really started that moving the puck. It's like having a third defenseman back there. You know what I mean? Yeah, that died a Dodge V10.
That monster, huh?
Yeah, I just
You
picked
sent
it
me
up.
this picture.
I picked
What
it
is
up in
the story
Minnesota,
with
and
this thing?
well, it kind of saved us because I was so excited when I scored a goal against the Rangers. I think I got the best of Churla, and I like to sign autographs out there. And you know that East Rutherford, that Meadowlands parking lot was a shit show. You know, you can't just cut across. And I hit one of those light poles with that damn thing. Not even drinking, because you have to go up and around. And I was just so excited. I was signing autographs. I figured I just cut across. And those light poles were so big. And I just was so excited. And I hit one of those. Thank God I had that V10. I frickin' T-boned it. So antifreeze leaking out of that big thing. And so I get it back to the Excelsior, and I called Patty Peccacaro. She's a great gal. I dated Patty, and I said, let's go for a drink. And she goes, that was my routine. And then she got it towed to. Then we went on the road trip, and I go to pick up my gear, and Johnny Mack goes, I heard what you did. I said, yeah. I said, everybody does that, Mike. I said, you're out of your mind. No one ever does that. But that parking lot was a nightmare. You know what I mean?
Man.
And
the good old days at the.
And if I had that damn thing, I might join Farmers Only, but I can't milk cows or ride a horse anyway. So that V10 came in handy, right?
All right, so we're back. We're going to Brendan Byrne, Game 3. I pulled this up. Take a look at this. I want to know what's going through your mind at this moment. We're going to see a couple other guys before you.
Number 3, defenseman Ken Danico. Number 4, defenseman and captain of the Devils, Scott Stevens. Number 6, defenseman Tommy Albaline. Number 8, left wing, Mike
There he is. Do you remember the awesome intros they used to do?
Well, they love the Italians. Like I said, I couldn't sleep. So Johnny Artinian, he was a good guy. They called him Superfan. He was the biggest Devil fan. John Artinian, God bless him. He got hit and run in New Orleans. We used to call him Superfan. And I went out with him and I don't know what year it was, but like I said, I didn't change my routine. We get out there it was by Hackensack there, and I'm just sitting there and with him, and then here comes this guy, comes in there, and these gals are kissing him on the side of the cheek. And the guys were doing it. I said, Jesus, I said, what the hell? What's your secret, man? He goes, well, I know, I just, I said, God, why won't they do that to me? He says, I said, so what do you do? He said, I don't know, I fuck around a little bit. I said, what do you do? I said, I'm Mike Peluso with the Devils. He said, yeah. I said, I'm number 8. He said, we have a season ticket out there. I said, Jesus, my daughter's your favorite fan. I said, oh my God, because I always like to give. I said, let me send you one of my 8 jerseys autographed. He said, Jesus Christ, Peluso, I got 10 addresses. I'm with the Mafia guy. I didn't even fucking know it. Mike, you can't do that. I got a few addresses, They do love their Italians here. That's for damn sure. Except that crazy one that, stormed South Mountain,
So Game 3, first Devils game at home. Another big victory in the Cup Finals. Kind of not a blowout, but Devils win 5-2 and now are only 1 game away from capturing the Cup. What do you remember, I guess, after Game 3? Now with the 3-0 lead, heading up to Game 4 with the chance to close it out. What are you thinking at that time?
Well, I think Ken Danico kind of settled us down a little bit, kind of keep things in perspective. He kind of slowed us down a little bit. And Kenny and I as well, we kept it the same pregame too, but Kenny kind of kept us, and Bruce Driver, Bruce is one of the best. In fact, we used to sing to Bruce every song. You can sing any song and you can get Brew in the mix. You know what I mean? It's always Brew. We used to sing to Bruce Driver. He said, all right, guys, this is getting a little too old. You know, like you can tell me a song right now and we'll get Brew in the lineup. You know, we used to sing to Bruce Driver. You can get Brew in any song you want. You know, but Bruce Driver, Scott Steven, I think Ken Danikel was again. We just got to keep things, in focus here. You know, and then of course Neil Broughton. And we don't win a cup without Bratzy. You know what I mean? In fact, he came over. I said the only thing is that it's tough to play your thousandth game here, and I actually got T-shirts made up for his thousandth game. But I think he got traded for Corey Millen and a second round pick, if my memory. And when Bratzy walked in, this guy, everybody just embraced him. You know, he's up there with the best. You know, I mean, hypothetically, you got some great American-born players, but he was incredible. You know, especially Carpy would take on that first line and then of course Bratzy would come out second or vice versa, and they just shut down the top lines. You know what I mean? They just shut down the top lines. Bratzy took on most of them. Carpy took on so many first line guys. You know, I mean, they try to. We matched lines against them, and other than this shit, then I got to change.
Were you like I guess a fan of Neil Broughton from the Miracle on Ice team?
Well, he went to the University of Minnesota, and my brother played there, and I was just I was a lot younger than him, but he did shit in this. You know, like I guess Ace, you got to understand something. Minnesota, it's your whole goal is to get into a state high school hockey tournament. You know, and it's like I think he won the state with Roseau, and then he won a national championship, Hobie Baker at the University of Minnesota, and then of course the Miracle on Ice, and then to come over to the Devils, one of the best trades in my opinion. Nothing against Corey Millen or a second round pick when he came over there. When he walked in the locker room, he was like Scott Stevens, these guys, he was looked up to, and he played a key role in all that. You know what I mean? And in fact, I was on the line. Yeah. Neil Broughton. But that's high school hockey. And then to win the Stanley Cup for us and for the whole organization and ourselves. But he goes way back to Roseau. Winning the state high school hockey tournament, that's one of the biggest pinnacles of your life, you know, as a college high school hockey player, you know what I mean?
Lou it always seemed like he found a way in all three of the years the Devils won the cup. He made some sort of trade during the season that when it was all said and done and the Devils win the cup, you look back at it and you're like, had he not made that deal, maybe this cup doesn't happen. And like you pointed out, for the 95 team, Neil Broughton could definitely be considered one of those types of deals, essentially, as maybe also Sean Chambers.
Yeah, I got a good story on those three.
Let's hear it.
We're playing the LA Kings, and we went out. Sean Chambers, myself, Neil Broughton. We never did it again. We never went out. We got in at I think 5 in the morning, but we went to that Jack in the Box to get some food to go. And we just said, we can't do this again. Well, we all scored. Bratzy scored, Chambers scored, even yours truly scored. I said, we can never do this again. We got in at 4 in the morning. I don't know. We're down there with Faye Resnick, the OJ deal. I don't know, but I actually scored, but we never did it again. We played on guilt that night. Yeah, Sean Chambers, Neil Broughton, and myself. You know what I mean?
Was that on a home game or away game?
LA Kings. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, hammered. We didn't have a practice in the pregame. You know, and we were bombed. And I'm in the back seat and we stopped at Jack in the Box, some burger place, got food to go, and we said, we just can't do this again. And then, I scored. Yours truly scored, and I think I hammered Teakin and poked it in. It wasn't a highlight goal, but then Bratzy, we beat him 3-2. And he said, we can never do this again. And we played on guilt, but you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Shit. I used to put Vicks on my body with the booze coming out of me, you know? You know, not a good way. I was very respectful. I wasn't a drunk. I was a gentleman. You know, I love my teammates. I never took one shift for granted, you know, especially where I came from. God bless the University of Alaska Anchorage. Yeah, but that's a good story, right?
That might be a pro tip. If you ever think that the booze is coming out of the pores, Mike says put the vapor rub on there. You might mask it up a little bit.
Well, it's not a game; it was a practice, and I'm sitting in line to do a drill. And the thing is about Keenan, our practices were quick and fast, and I was just sitting in a line, and I had a couple the night before, and I put Vicks on my body, and then Chelly, it went right through the Vicks, and Chelly goes, someone went out last night. But it sure beats, and I'll do respect to Bobby Holik. I love him more than any player. I respect him more than any player I've ever played with. He was a quiet leader, but he used to eat garlic by the cloves. And that shit come out of your body. We couldn't get near the water bottles. Jeez,
I've never
Dano,
heard that one
Jesus,
before.
for fuck's sakes, Bobby, you got to stay away from the garlic. I mean, we couldn't get near the water bottles because that garlic sweats out of his pores. You know?
That is so funny.
Yeah, good man. Good man. Yeah. Well, the other one, too, I was Bobby's roommate in Florida. I think that was kind of a big win for us in 94, 95 with that shortened season. We beat the Panthers there. And Bobby's my roommate, and he's out the door. I had a goalie howl. Randy scored. Bobby scored. And this wasn't on the itinerary. Lou liked to do this shit without it on the itinerary. All of a sudden, I get the red lights flashing on the phone between the beds. I pick it up. Where are you, Peluso? I said, well, Jesus, I didn't see. We're all in the parking lot. We're going for a run. I said, for Christ's sakes, I didn't even bring my running shoes. I didn't bring them. It just so I come out with these guys got their running shoes on, and I'm out there with size 13 dress shoes and boxer shorts. I said, what the hell's going on here? It was on the itinerary. We just kind of planned it. I said, I could get fucking shin splints.
So you went outside with dress, dress shoes?
Well, I'm not used to, itineraries, but it just was planned out of nowhere at the Durrell, and I don't bring my running shoes anywhere. It just was the red lights flashing. I picked it up. I said, where are you? I said, well, I'm just rolling out of the wrapper. Well, we're down in the parking lot going out for a run. I get down there and they're all in running shoes. I said, was this on the itinerary? No, it was just kind of planned. I said, geez, I'm in there with size 13 and boxer shorts. Well, little Calvin Klein. I was kind of good looking back then. I had Calvin Kleins and dress shoots on, But it came out of nowhere and they goes, yeah, it wasn't on the itinerary, Johnny Mack goes, everybody doing it. Everybody doing it. Turn this thing around, Johnny Mack. When that plane landed in Teterboro and it was Philly, and John Artanian screaming at the plane when we got off, come on, Johnny Mack, turn this thing around. We did. Yeah.
Wow.
Of course, I kept Claude out all night. We were doing discos in South Beach.
I would pay so much money to be able to go in a time machine and see Mike Peluso and Claude Lemieux out at a club in South Beach. I could envision it, and I would pay so much money to be able to be there or to see a video of it, because I could only imagine the visual of that.
Yeah. Well, in those days we were all gentlemen, it was good. Most of these guys, I like I said, we can get married, but I always thought that, I got one shift away. I met, a lot of great gals, I'm not just a control freak, I'm pretty compatible with everybody. And the other thing too, I just didn't want to get softened up by a wife, Mike, it's okay. It's okay. You lost last night, lost a couple fights. And I said, it just wasn't good enough for me. In fact, some of those exhibition games, I look like one of those crash test dummies, where they throw you in a fucking Audi in the front seat with no brake pads and push you down the fucking hill. Hey, let's throw Peluso in there. Let's see how this fucking thing runs. You know what I mean?
All right, so now we go to game 4. Devils commanding 3-0 lead, cup in the building, chance to win the cup at the Brendan Byrne. Do you remember, I guess, like the night before that, the day of, like, what do you remember heading into the game 4 now, where it's like my
I guess
lifelong dream might happen here tonight?
Sure. I just think score first. I'm not me. We score first and we get a couple more, and then, it's just, it's never easy and never really. And just try to score first and play your system. We ran this system all year, and just keep grinding on. I actually we had a good couple chances earlier on with a crash line, and if that thing goes in, I'm flying through the air. You're not going to believe this. I saw the loose puck and I was flying through the air, and I tried to, not a Ovechkin, but that, just get it in deep and just fucking go after him. And then, you just rely on third and fourth lines, and just keep at it. I don't think we said much. I don't think Jacques was so good. I mean, it's he came over there and Larry Robinson, 18 Stanley Cups. I to be honest, I was just happy to play in the NHL, and then I'm moments away from hoisting the Stanley Cup, right?
So Devils do score first in that game.
Yeah,
Neil Broughton
right?
scores a
Yeah.
minute and 8 seconds in. Then the next shift, Randy buries a guy into the videographer box.
Yeah.
But then in the first period, Fedorov gets one almost immediately to tie it up. And then later in the period, Paul Coffey gets a shorthanded goal to take a 2-1 lead. And then even later in the first period, but a little over 2 minutes left, Sean Chambers ties it. So it's 2-2 after one. Neil Broughton scores again in the second period to give the Devils the 3-2 lead. And then in the third, Breland scores, Chambers scores for kind of the icing on the cake.
Sergei Breland scored there before Chambers or after?
Breland scored the first goal of the third period to give you guys.
Okay, and then Bundy buried one from the point, right?
Yep. To get to for the 5-2 lead, which was kind of the backbreaker. And then we're gonna fast forward here to one of the most famous for longtime fans kind of images of all time in the closing moments of Game 4.
You see the time left, and you see a man by the name of Mike Peluso. Mike, you see him all season long. That's expressing what this means to him.
Tears of joy from the guy who put the crash. By the end of the night, there'll be a third guy, and he'll have his name engraved on the Stanley Cup later. An emotional guy, and he's the first guy here every day for practice, every day for the games, Mike Peluso. And he'll be one of the last guys to leave tonight. This will be his longest and probably his happiest day ever in hockey.
No, you're known as a scrapper and a fighter, and you wonder if you ever have a chance to play in the National Hockey League. He credits Mike Keenan for giving him a chance to play. You have to try to enjoy the moment. My goodness. It's just, that's what it means in this sport to be able to win it. You've got some people like
the closing moments of Game 4, Mike Peluso, emotional on the bench, a photo that an image that everyone remembers. What is now going through your mind, knowing that this game is over, you're moments away from joining your teammates on the ice, and you will be lifting a Stanley Cup momentarily? There it was. What do you remember? Do you remember this vividly as this?
Yeah, I just
look back
think
on this.
Well, where I came from, a long shot, just in my individual career, like I said, I was going to head back to Alaska and be a forklift driver, which would have been a debacle. And I guess it just all hit me at once. My dad's in the crowd, my family's there, and just the hard work and it just all hit me at once. It wasn't just all the battles in the IHL and I think there was a lot more guys crying in the locker room. They just happened to get me on TV. I think Scott Stevens, who I just idolized and loved to death, and I think he tried to grab me and console me. And I'm usually the one that doesn't see the ice in the last 8 minutes, and it's probably the first time I never bitched about ice time. And it just all hit me at once. Especially where I came from, northern Minnesota, grew up in Penguin Greenway, University of Alaska, and all the years of battling every night. But it's all about the team for me, and just a special moment for sure. After 30 years,
So
like I say, the game, the game may have changed as this skill, but I always make sure I watch the playoffs and the Stanley Cup, at the end of the year. But it was just a great organization, just a group. And I'm not one of those fucking cliche guys. There's nothing like it. It's nothing like it.
So in the clip, Doc Emmerich had the call, and he did reference the fact that you gave Mike Keenan credit, for giving you a chance to play. So when you look back at it now, is Keenan really the guy that you think gave you your break that resulted in a very good NHL career, as opposed to, as you just mentioned, the flip side. Had you not made the NHL, you believe you would have been a forklift driver.
Yeah, up in Alaska, I wasn't very good at it. Yeah, he gave me a chance. Gave me a chance. Like I said, there was no scouting up there, but I don't even play in the league without Mike Keenan. I didn't take anything for granted, but I was just on a tryout basis. I think when he moved me up to left wing in exhibition, playing left wing and playing up front, when that puck stumped in, all I thought was I hit someone so fucking hard. If there wasn't boards in the yard, he'd end up in the parking lot. But it's so much easier. That's why you got to take your hat off to Scott Stevens it's so much easier to hit people and get the puck in deep than taking yourself out of position and then give up an odd man rush going the other way. You know what I mean? As far as the fighting, I didn't do it to stay on the team. I just did it because I looked after my teammates and myself and the fat kid. But Mike Keenan, I don't even get a sniff. You know what I mean?
So now a couple minutes after the video we just saw, it finally comes down, and there it is. Mike Peluso, Stanley Cup champion. After getting there with the Hawks and losing to the Pens, as you talked about earlier, getting pretty close the year before, a devastating Game 7 loss at the Garden. Now they hand you the cup, and what's going through your mind now as it's all real, right? You were on the bench, emotional. Now they give you the cup, and I meant to analyze the video. Do you remember who handed you the cup?
There was no order. And I didn't mean to jump. It was just only one order. It was the Devils. It was Dano, Randy Mack, or Dano, Bruce Driver, and Johnny Mack. Other than that, I didn't even know there was an order. So I just jumped in there and grabbed it. I think Bratzy got it. There was no order, and I should have been more respectful. I didn't mean it that way.
No, I could imagine the excitement. You don't really think about it, right, till it happens.
Yeah.
I'm sure it didn't feel too heavy for you there, did it?
No. I just did. Well, I was there when Randy got it, and he's right. I mean, I think he hit one of those those press cords, and how he hung on to it, God only knows. But I don't know if he collided with someone. I don't know. Yeah. Well, I was watching Wayne Gretzky when he talks about in those days, the great one. Oh, let's do a Wayne Gretzky story. See, I was a second line player in Ottawa. And Rick Bowness says, you're going against Gretzky's line all night. We shut him down. He scored one assist on the power play. And I just told the Ottawa Sun, if I'm within 5 feet of this guy, take a picture, So I shut him down. But anyway, Wayne Gretzky, looking back at the Islanders, Gretzky, he said that because we didn't have cable TV up there. I was cheering for the North Stars, but he said in those days the fans would come running on the ice, huh?
Yeah,
all the fans.
I've seen the videos. Yeah, it was just like it was kind of like when you see big college football games or basketball games where they rush the court or the field. I remember seeing it and I was like, that was crazy that was even allowed. But yeah, sure enough, back then it happened.
Yeah, there's so many goals. I was rooming with Reach and I just told him. He said, "Man, I might take off the series." I said, "No, buddy, you can't." I said, "What's it like, winning the cup?" And I didn't want to jinx us, but. He could shoot that puck. I don't remember what time. I didn't see the ice. I said, Reese, go out there and win the game. He had his family in town and he against Quebec and he roofed one and then we just went out partying. But in those days it was overtime too, right? I mean, a lot of these games. But yeah, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. Yeah, absolutely. And then we brought it to, I think yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
What do you remember about the locker room afterwards?
It was just great. Chaos, family in there, champagne. Like you said, we didn't have the biggest locker room, but and they were trying to get in there in a good way. And I think my drunken brother Gino ended up in Detroit's fucking locker room. And he goes, he's looking for the fucking cup. I'm just grateful McCarthy didn't fucking two-hand him. You know what I mean? The fucker ended up in Detroit's locker room.
How did that happen?
Huh?
How did that happen?
Well, our locker rooms were right next to each other. There, at the Brennan Byrne. We used to have share locker rooms with the New Jersey Nets. You know what I mean?
There's a great shot of you in the locker room afterwards.
Yeah, I actually kind of went back to normalcy. Now I'm running around with man boobs. At least I had a chest back then, eh? Fucking.
You were definitely a beast, Mike.
Should have got that strip. Yeah.
And did you go out with everybody? I guess Randy
Oh
said
yeah,
last time
absolutely. I
to the
missed.
VI.
I think we ended up. Ken Danico had a restaurant there with his father-in-law. I think we ended up over there. Yeah, Panico's. I think the restaurant him and his father-in-law owned. We
It
were
was
over there most of the time.
Mezzanotte.
Oh, Mezzanotte. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
over in West Orange. Yeah, we went over there, and unfortunately I missed getting on David Letterman. I didn't even get the call. You know, I was I had a bottle of Dom Perignon and a smoke in my hand. I don't know where the hell I ended up. And I was going to go down to the White House and Bill Clinton. It just, we had a party in that small town in Pingill, you know, and it was the same day. You know, now I'm grateful, you know, these guys get to go to the White House, you know, when they win it. In those days, hey, you're going to the White House, you know. Then we had the same party in Pingill, you know, so, and I would have loved gone there.
Was that, what did you do your day with the Cup?
Just brought up to northern Minnesota, you know, Pingilly, and just kind of made our ways, you know. Big party, hit Pingilly, the great city of Pingilly. There's only 400 people there, maybe 2,000 people in our population. We have one post office and 10 bars, and at 800. My dad was a miner too, you know. My mom worked hard, and we ran Peluso's grocery for many years too, you know.
A grocery store.
So, yeah, my dad was a miner. Yeah, Peluso's grocery, 43 years of Peluso's grocery. I was kind of the fat kid there, but we used to stamp and shit, you know, but kind of rambling. But yeah, I just kept it on the Iron Range. You know, I was just going to try to get out to Alaska, but, you know, and I remember that poor guy that chaperoned it. We should have planned it when it's in Roseau, Minnesota with Bratzy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Sean Chambers brought it to Brainerd, Minnesota. Tommy Chorsky, God bless him. He was on Carpy's line that shut down players. Tommy Chorsky, he's a South Minneapolis guy. Played four or five Minnesota guys there. We should have planned it. We have in Minnesota. This guy drops it off in Pingilly. He ends up in Czechoslovakia, then back to Roseau with Bratzy. You know, we just didn't plan it. You know, the right times, I guess.
Wow.
But Tom Chorsky, what a player. He could skate. He was the first Minnesota. They started doing the award Mr. Minnesota Hockey, and he was number one. But Tommy Chorsky was on those lines, shutting down their top lines. He played with Carpy, and then he played a little bit with Bratzy. Tom Chorsky shut down a lot of lines against the big lines. South Minneapolis High School. Yeah, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we had the most American-born players on that team, right?
Which one?
95. 95 team. I think we were 11-1 on the road. That's
so there was Neil Broughton, Bobby Carpenter, Sean Chambers, Tom Chorsky, Danton Coles 5, Kevin Dean 6, Jim Dowd 7, Billy
Chris
G,
McAlpine
8, McAlpine 9. You were 10, Roley 11, Chris Terreri 12. Yeah, that's got to be up there. I don't know where that ranks, but that's certainly got to be.
We were pretty impressed. We set a record 11-1 on the road, didn't we? I think LA Kings tied that. I think when under Darryl Sutter, I think they tied that 11-1 on the road. That's a hell of a road.
And 16-4 overall on the run.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't really see that too often. What a team. I want to pull up a couple other photos that you were gracious enough to send me that I think people will really enjoy. In no particular order, I guess this is a good one.
Yeah, it's a governor. Loved her.
With the former governor, Christine.
Yeah, she was amazing. Yeah, I just want to get a picture with her. Yeah, for sure.
Do you remember where that was?
Yeah, that was where we used our pregame meal at the Meadowlands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at
that's in the Meadowlands.
Flow. The Mike Peluso flow was like none other, huh?
Yeah.
What a head of hair.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, I was a goal scorer. Randy and Bobby got hair. When you're a goal scorer, they just rub the top of it and it just eventually goes out after scoring. But
this obviously a great one. Must have been on picture day with the Cup, the Crashers, you, Randy, and Bobby.
Yeah. And they didn't know what the hell to do with the parade. So I think that was at the parade. And I rode in the parade with Bobby and Renee Holik. Renee was a great guy. I rode in the car with Bobby and Randy, or Renee and Bobby Holik, and they interviewed me, and I said, we just need a few more dents in our Mercedes to look like the crash line, Our car, and throw back to throw back from Slapshot. I said, we could just use a few more dents in our Mercedes here, the crash line, Shit.
There's another good one of you guys. Do you remember where this one was?
That was definitely at Mezzanotte for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. You know what? I didn't even realize. Yeah, wow. At Dano's old restaurant. That's definitely a classic.
Yeah,
for
right
sure.
on.
At the cup party they had there. And then what else we got here from the Mike Peluso archives? I like this was a good one. Mike and the Troopers.
Yeah, that was definitely Meadowlands. And
some of them you had the away jersey.
That was definitely before the parade. Definitely. Yeah, that was down at the parade, and I wanted to get a picture with them, And they were there, and I just.
What do you remember the most about the parades when you look back? People bash the Devils for it. I think it's kind of corny. People are like, "Oh yeah, the parking lot parade," but like, where the Meadowlands was, there wasn't a great place to do it. I thought it was more than fitting. But what do you remember the most about, I guess, the parade and leading up to that?
Well, to be honest with you, Ace, I don't think we had a clue about Nashville. We didn't even know.
People had the signs. It's a very famous photo.
Yeah, we literally did not know. The players in the town, they didn't really talk about it. I didn't even think we're going to Nashville. No, not at all. We didn't even know about it. And then you can't boo the best governor, we didn't even know. I'm telling you, we didn't know till after the Cup. We might be going to Nashville.
And what did you
I swear on my life.
That?
What's that?
When you heard that rumor, what did you think about it?
We didn't even hear about it until after the parade. We didn't know. I know we got fitted for our rings, and we were so hungover and dehydrated we had to get them refitted because our fucking fingers were so swelled.
That's hilarious. Oh,
Scotty had the strongest grip strength, Yeah. Yeah, we didn't know anything about Nashville, man. We didn't know at all. I don't think anybody did.
I had heard that it was basically just a ploy by Dr. McMullen to try to get a better kind of deal with the arena in New Jersey. So it was kind of a smokescreen. But I remember when I heard it as a kid, I was like, wow, that would be terrible if the Devils got, pride from us and moved to Nashville. I would have just been a fan of whatever team they became. But that's obviously not the same as being able to go to the teams in your home state that wear your Devils logo, obviously. I was fortunate enough to live pretty close to South Mountain Arena and go watch you guys practice, would go to a ton of games, and the Nashville stuff really was kind of disturbing at the time. And someone had a sign at the parade as well that was like Nashville, hell no, or something.
Yeah, it was Chris Terreri for sure.
Yeah,
we didn't know anything about it, and I think Dano knows more about the great Doc McMullen and his wife. She would have never went to Nashville, or he wouldn't have never went to Nashville, in my opinion. I think that's why they wore the Christmas jerseys, because she loved green and red, I guess. Green.
It was a smart.
Yeah, they were pretty popular on holidays, weren't they?
Yeah, for sure. And even up until a few years ago, they would have a couple
throwback
nights for Heritage Night, and there was another one. They did what they call the reverse retro that was all green, which was pretty cool. All right, and we go to the next photo from your archive here. This is a classic. Where was this one?
Well, I just took off, and it was definitely near Belleville because they wanted to put me in there for years in the mental institution. So it was down there, and I did a bunch of commercials for the American Cancer Society. I did a lot of charity work because most of these guys were married and had kids, so I always went. I went going to that children's hospital all the time when guys couldn't do it, and I actually parked in the doctor's cell. So Johnny Mack started calling me Dr. Peluso, but that was definitely by Belleville there. And I had a smoke in my hand and a bottle of Dom Perignon. And then they wanted me to judge a bathing contest, a free round trip. Gals get up there, and I was a judge. And all of a sudden I said, oh, shit, don't put me in the spot here. And they're gorgeous. And come on, Mike, which one? I said, that one. Not that I'm going to date her. I just did the contest. She was 4'1" sitting on a bar stool. She got off that bar stool. They had to hand her the fucking tickets. She was on a fucking bar stool. You know, she got 2 round trip tickets and she's on a bar stool. She looked like a 6-foot model. And she gets off the bar stool.
Then we got another one. Where's this one at?
Well, that's a party up in Pingilly.
So that was your day with the cup.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did you
My dad
sleep
played
at
the
all?
accordion.
Did you sleep at all when you had the cup, or were you awake the entire time?
Yeah, I was up partying a little bit. It was when I was a heavy drinker. Yeah, but my dad played the accordion, you know, and he played by ear. He played everything. He played every song. So he had the Italian air compressor out that night, you know.
All right, so this one reminds me of a funny story you had told me a while ago.
Yeah.
Mike for the holidays. I don't know if this is the same one. But tell the people about when you took the Christmas tree from the hotel room.
Well, I didn't have a Christmas tree fucking 90 either. And Johnny Ortini came up. My mom, my sister, and my brother-in-law are there, and I didn't have a Christmas tree, so we just went down to fucking New York and got one of that. Well, the Ottawa one, we had our Christmas party, and I forget what the hotel was. I don't mention it, and we're losing our ass off. And we had a Christmas party in Ottawa, and I didn't have a Christmas tree in my apartment. You know, Mark Lamb was my line mate, and we shut down a lot of lines, but I said, fuck, I don't have a Christmas tree. So as the crowd died down, I grabbed the whole fucking thing, and I'm in the elevator, and I said, no one's going to get off at this stop, you know. All of a sudden, here comes Rick Bowness. I'm behind me. Hey, happy holidays, Rick. No, I got to deliver this tree for the next floor. There's no room in here. I can sneak in here. And I got this fucking Christmas tree. The fucking balls are flying off the thing. And he goes, Peluso, is that you? I said, yeah, I don't have a Christmas tree. Just take this fucker home. And you never heard a fucking word, you know. I just stuck it in a stand. And we're on the border of Hull, Quebec and Ottawa. And yeah, and maybe Alanis could come over and sing a couple of Christmas songs, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
You brought up Tom Chorsky.
Yeah.
Do you remember the following season he left after the Cup, and he in the final game of the season?
I know
the Devils needed to win the final game of the year at home. It was winning in against Ottawa, and Chorsky scored a big third period goal to tie the game, and then he scored the backbreaker. Let me see here. It was Devils were up 2-1. He scored to tie it 2-2. And then Alfredson broke the tie 3-2. And then with 2.5 minutes left, he scored the basically the barrier goal to give them the 4-2 lead and essentially put it out of reach. Do you remember him coming back to screw up the following season?
I don't think God bless him, but I don't think he screwed up. I think we just quit listening with Jacques and Larry. I think we just partied so much in the summer. I think we just weren't listening. Jacques tried to keep us together. We had people fucking screaming at each other. We just didn't listen. It wasn't his goal. We just kind of got off our game. I don't know if we partied so much the year before and weren't in shape. We just quit listening. We quit listening to the greatest coach in NHL history. We just wouldn't listen. You know what I mean?
I remember at the end of that game, Dano crying on the bench. And the shot went to him, and it was like, after an incredible 93-94 where you guys went so far, lost in 7 to the Rangers, then followed it up with the Cup, to then miss the playoffs in that fashion. I remember as a kid just sitting there, and I was cursing Tom Chorsky's name. I was like, Tom Chorsky.
Well, it wasn't really Tommy. I mean, God bless him. It was just we just quit listening. You know, it was no one's fault. We just quit listening, and you got like Lou Lamoriello always made that analogy. He's made that analogy 1,000 times, not 1,000, 100 times we get off a roll. He gets in there and starts speaking to us, goes, we're a team. Scott Niederer plays the guitar and this and that, and then Johnny Mac does the drums, and Scott Stevens and we got Peluso trying to pick up the tuba and trying to be a guitarist. We're not going to fucking go anywhere, you know? You said that. I can't be grabbing the guitar when I can just blow my tuba once for a Christmas fucking song. We just got off, or we just quit listening. We quit listening.
Was
And
that one of the more disappointing regular seasons that you could recall following the cup win?
yeah, you know, I'd fight anybody, you know. I just yeah, I try to keep a good attitude. I guess I'll do anything they tell me to do. We just kind of try to go in different directions, you know. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Wow. What an era. Mike, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on. It was a long road for us to get here. You shared many stories with me over the years, and I begged you to come on. I am so glad you finally did. The fans are going to love this. The fans will never forget you. The crash line, a huge part of Devils history, and obviously the franchise's first Stanley Cup in 1995. Number 8 will always have a special place in all of our hearts. The old school fans are going to love this. Really, really thank you for your time, and hope to do this again in the not too distant future. There's a lot of stuff I didn't get to. I didn't want to hijack your entire day. We were on here for a while, and there's endless stuff to get to, but really appreciate you giving us the little tidbits and stories and things from throughout your career. And yeah, man, it was really a pleasure. Thank you so much. And do you have any closing comments or anything for the fans that are going to go nuts when they see this?
Just thank you, New Jersey. And stay away from those crazy Italian gals that you know, those crazy Italian girls from Pittsburgh with no fan mail. Thank you, Yogi, for the only one that believed in me.
Stay away from the fan mail. Mike, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon. You have a good one.
Thank you, Ace, and happy 30 years to the Devils 95 team.
30th anniversary.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.